And our special guest tonight, welcoming our friend back from Reis and Pelicano, Daniel Reis, for this webinar of Last Call for the Coastal Golden Visa. How are you tonight, Daniel?
I'm quite all right, Carl. It's a pleasure to be back in these webinars, and I actually missed you guys, so it's really good to be back.
Oh, excellent. And I'm just down the road from you. I'm in balmy Beato on the east side, east end of Lisbon. It's incredible, Daniel, what's going on at this end of town. It really is. Can you remind us which bit of Lisbon you're in?
I am in a central Lisbon called Saldanha Picoas, just across the tube. So it's called Avenida Fontes Pereira de Melo, and it's one of the main arteries of Lisbon. So if I just look into the window, there's a big queue of cars just driving down the road, and it's one of the busiest roads in Lisbon.
And that's near the iconic Marquês Pombal monument.
Correct. It's 300 meters from the Marquês Pombal.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you for being here tonight. It sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? Last call for the Coastal Golden Visa. What's happening here? Do tell us.
Well, indeed, I wouldn't say it's dramatic, but it is a big change on the Golden Visa program because you had some political pressure on some parties that were not happy with the Golden Visa program, and in their opinion, the Golden Visas were putting the prices of the properties in Porto and Lisbon up the scale. So they decided to in the beginning take Lisbon and Porto out of the equation, and this was the initial talk, but it evolved to take the majority of the coastal areas out of the equation to apply for a Golden Visa. So foreigners can still buy property in Portugal. I would say it's a fairly straightforward process of acquiring property in Portugal. We have done a webinar about it, I think about a year ago. And as long as the person that wants to acquire property as an if, foreigners can still buy property in Portugal. So this is not a ban on foreigners acquiring property in Portugal. It's just a ban on foreigners acquiring property in Portugal and then applying for the Golden Visa for the property. And basically what this means is that the coastal areas of Portugal, and when possible, do show us the map that I've sent you. They will be out of the equation for the Golden Visa program. And if you can just look into this map, the white part of the map is what is considered the low density areas. So we usually do say it's the coastal areas that are out of the equation, but this is a bit imprecise. So the correct term is low density areas. In the low density areas, the Golden Visa will still be available, but the high density areas, the ones that are in the white in the map, will be the ones out of the equation. So you see that a big portion of Portugal, all Lisbon area and Leiria and up into Porto, almost until the border with Spain, are out of the equation. So all the white area that you see in the map will not be eligible for the Golden Visa. Although there is an interesting situation about Algarve, because some parts of Algarve will still be eligible, and the CEF of Algarve is still debating on a situation on other areas being eligible for the Golden Visa. The ones that are shown in the map in white, it may be up to the discussion of if the properties bought over there will still be eligible in 2022. But what will happen is that if a foreigner buys a property in 2022, he can still own it, he can still rent it, he can still do Airbnb in that property. The only thing that will not be able to be done is apply for the Golden Visa. And you can take the map off. I think at least people do have the perception on what is on and off. And if necessary, I can put the link back into the chat. So basically, what will happen, or all the latecomers that wish to apply for the Golden Visa, they should do it now. And what we are advising our clients here at our law firm is that properties should be bought until, I would say, about the 16th of November. So they are still eligible for the Golden Visa. They can be bought after that, but it will be a bit tight. So because once you apply or once you purchase a property, you'll have a deed, but the house will still need to be registered within the land registry, will still need to be registered within the tax authorities, and a document from the bank, the statement from the bank on how much money has entered and how much money has left the Portuguese bank account will need to be produced. In these documents, I would say that they're fairly quick, but to account for Murphy's Law and something going wrong, I would account about 15 days since the date of the purchase of the property until the date that we can submit the Golden Visa. And the Golden Visa will only be considered submitted once it's called the DUC, the document to pay the fees of SEF, is issued and that document is paid. So what the Portuguese law is stating is that if the process is requested within 2021, all coastal areas, all areas will be still eligible. If the process for the Golden Visa is requested after the end of 2021, so after the 1st of January of 2022, then the properties will not be eligible for the Golden Visa in the areas that I just mentioned, the high density areas. So this will create, I do think, a drawback in the Golden Visa program, and it will not be as attractive to foreign investors. Although it's interesting because at least here in our law practice, we are seeing a lot of people interested in the Portuguese interior, and this is a development for us, because usually the majority of clients would want to buy or Lisbon, Cascais, or Porto, and some in Algarve, of course, but usually Golden Visa investors did stick with these three places. And now we are seeing a lot of people inquiring about the Portuguese interior. This is interesting. This is what the Portuguese government wants, to develop the interior regions of the country, and that's why they are cutting off the Golden Visa for the main cities. It's an interesting development, but still, I do think that comparing to other countries, our program will not be as attractive as it is nowadays, because if someone purchases a property in Portugal for more than $500,000, the investor could buy anywhere in the country, and as long as they prove that the money came from a non-tax haven, it was just a question of transferring the money to Portugal and then doing the investment throughout the Portuguese bank account. And this would have a successful Golden Visa application. The card would be issued in about 10 months, give or take. Now, with these changes, probably we'll see less interest in Portugal, but at the same time, people that will invest in the country will develop the interior regions, and this might be very good for places like Tomar, like we were discussing, or any other interior cities that are in need of renovations and foreign investment. So we'll still need to do the balance in 1 or 2 years. Probably we'll account the balance and see if we had a substantial reduction in the investments in Portugal via the Golden Visa. It has been a successful program these, I would say, 10 years, 9 years that is in operation, and it has brought a lot of investment to Portugal, and the country does benefit from it, because it's a lot of money that gets poured into the Portuguese economy. And if you are acquiring a property that's around $500,000, you do need to pay, I would say, about 30K in property transfer taxes. So it is something that has brought money not only to the Portuguese economy, but to the Portuguese state. So the bottom line is that this is the last call for investors that wish to invest in Portugal in the coastal areas. And as long as they do the investment until, as I said, about the 16th of November, and we can submit the process, the Golden Visa process, within this year, they will have a successful Golden Visa application, even though the approval will come in about 10 months. So this has been the late developments of the Golden Visa. We have seen a surge in the Golden Visa requests in these last few months, because everyone that is really interested in the program wants to invest now, not to be tied with the new rules that are coming. So this is the overview of the current situation, and how we see the operation going forward.
Very interesting. Okay, so there are things to talk about. Backtrack a little bit on the benefits of the Golden Visa. Yeah. And a great question, actually. If we backtrack a little to the more general idea of visas here, Gina is asking an excellent question. What's the difference between the Golden Visa and the D7? My answer to that is, the Golden Visa is investment based, and a D7 is passive income based. But I'm sure you've got a better answer than me on that, Daniel.
Well, the D7 is the correct option for someone that wants to live full-time in Portugal, because the Golden Visa, the big advantage out of the Golden Visa is that you can have a residency permit without residing full-time in Portugal. So the beauty out of the Golden Visa is that you can only stay for 7 days per year in Portugal and still have the card renewed. And this is quite advantageous for people that still have their companies abroad, that wish to still run their companies, or that are still working and are planning to retire in Portugal in the near future, but want to have the residency permit, to have the freedom of entering the Schengen space without any prior visas, or want the clock to start ticking for the nationality. So people that are interested in obtaining the Portuguese nationality usually do apply for the Golden Visa, even if they are planning to reside in the country in 4 or 5 or 6 years, but they want the clock to start ticking now. And the clock for nationality is 5 years of consecutive residency and passing on the Portuguese exam. So the advantage of the Golden Visa is allowing the investor to have a residency permit that allows the person to travel around Schengen space, and the investor only resides in Portugal if they do wish. So the Golden Visa investor can reside in Portugal for more than 7 days, but this is something that it's an option. And the D7, on the opposite, the person should reside full-time in Portugal. They should at least reside for 6 months in a day to have the criteria of the fiscal residency. And this is the other difference between the Golden Visa and the D7. The D7, you should register yourself as a fiscal resident in Portugal and thus be taxed globally on all the income that you generate around the world. And this doesn't happen with the Golden Visa. So you do have people that don't wish to be tax residents in Portugal and that don't want to reside here for more than 6 months in a day, and thus they opt on the Golden Visa. But to be completely straightforward, usually when I do the initial call with the clients, if the client wishes to reside full-time in Portugal, then the D7 is a much better option, because the fees from SEF are steep considering Golden Visa, and the D7 is, as you said, a passive income situation. And if the person is retired, if the person has some passive income from investments, or even sometimes a lump sum of money, this can all be used for the D7 request. But for the Golden Visa, having a passive income or not, it's totally indifferent. What the Portuguese government wants with the Golden Visa is to have the capital invested here, so money circulating in the Portuguese economy. And usually the basic rules to have a successful Golden Visa are having a clean background check, so a clean criminal record. The money cannot be sourced from a tax haven. And the other one is that I just mentioned was that all the money for the property purchase or any other type of investment that the investor wishes to do needs to pass throughout the Portuguese bank account. So no payments directly done from the US or the UK pay from the personal bank accounts of the investor into the people selling the property. It all needs to be routed throughout the Portuguese bank account. And if these simple rules are applied and complied, a successful golden visa will occur. And now it's the other rule for the latecomers that the property needs to be purchased this year, as well as the application started this year as well. If this rule is complied, the coastal areas are still eligible until the end of the year. So this is ding, 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 last call for the investors that wish to buy properties in Portugal and apply for the golden visa.
Yeah, thank you for that, Daniel. And I think we shouldn't overlook the thing that you just basically slipped into the conversation there, which is access to the Schengen Zone. That's an incredible benefit, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, people might think of this as a visa for Portugal, which it is, of course, but it's actually a Schengen visa as well, which is an incredible benefit for anybody coming out from elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's. I'll just do a small correction because it's an important situation. It's not a visa, it's a residency permit. So it's the equivalent to a green card in the US. And that card will allow the investor to be in any country of the Schengen area for the maximum period of 3 months. If the person reaches the 3 months, then it should leave that country and come back to Portugal or go to any other Schengen country. But this is a really big advantage, especially for people that don't have agreements with the Schengen space. I would say that for the UK situation or the US situation, the agreement that is in place, people can enter the Schengen space and stay here for 3 months. But this is not, for instance, the reality for people holding a South African passport. And so a big interest in the Golden Visa program came from South African citizens or even from Chinese citizens, because they don't have a facilitated entry in the Schengen space. And the Golden Visa is a way to obtain that. So it is not only a residency permit for Portugal, as you said, but a way to travel inside Schengen space and to conduct business within the Schengen space. So it's one of the big advantages of the Golden Visa, no doubt about it.
Sure is, isn't it? So anybody who's been nursing a romantic desire to go to Paris and Rome as well, access to many beautiful parts of Europe. Superb. Okay, the levels. Can we go to the levels? Because previously, or until the end of the year, we were looking at 500,000, weren't we, euros for the sort of prized areas, and a concession was made for investment in the interior of 350,000. Is that remaining the same?
You have several tiers in the Golden Visa, and probably I'll start with the top one, the 500,000 one, the most well known. So if it's a property that is 500,000, then the property can be purchased anywhere, no strings attached in terms of the areas or in any other terms. And if the investor wants to finance let's say that they are buying a property that is 750,000 euros. If they want to finance the rest of the 250, that's totally fine. So as long as the investor has put money in the economy of at least 500,000 euros in purchasing the property, the rest can be financed. So in no areas, the investor is not bound to any areas. Then you have another limit that it's not as well known, and it's the 400K limit. And this is for the low density areas, the ones that you displayed in the map. So if an investor wishes to buy a property in the low density areas, he can invest there with just 400,000 euros. So all the blue areas at the current moment, if someone wanted to buy a property over there, they can still buy on the 400K mark and still apply for the Golden Visa, because they are considered low density areas in Portugal. The other one that you mentioned is the 350K routes. In this one, you can still invest at the current moment in Lisbon or any other high density area or any other area in Portugal, but you have some strings attached. And these are the following. The property that you are acquiring needs to be above 30 years old, or to be in an area that is called the ARU, or Rehabilitation or Recuperation Area. And these areas are defined by the municipality. So each municipality will have an ARU area, or a rehabilitation area, that they do define, that is in need of investment and of recuperation. I would say that in Lisbon, for instance, the majority of Lisbon is an ARU area, but outside of Lisbon, it will vary quite dramatically what the municipality has defined as the ARU area. Usually it's downtown, it's the central part of the city, it's the old town of the city that needs to have some investment. And so, or the property is 30 years old or is in ARU zone. And you will need to invest as well on rehabilitation of that property. So the 350K mark is a combination, a joint combination of the property purchase, of the property price that you are paying, with a renovation agreement. So, and the two documents, or the documents of the property purchase plus the renovation agreement, will need to be delivered to the Border Patrol Police, the CEF, to have a successful Golden Visa application. And this is usually a bit more time consuming, a bit more stressful, because running a renovation is not easy, especially doing at a distance, because a lot of investors do this at a distance. And that's why this is a bit more intensive, and it does require from the investor not only purchasing the property, but selecting people to do the renovation of the property. And usually there's nothing mentioned in the law, but usually it's advisable that the amount destined to the rehabilitation of the property is around 15 to 20% of the property purchase. So there's this is not written in stone, but they have a credible application with a renovation that is indeed something that it will be credible. Around the 15% mark, I would say it's interesting. Then you have the other option mentioned is the 280 mark, or 280K mark. For this typology of investment, it's really similar to the 350K mark, but you'll need to do it in the interior, in the low density area. So it's property purchase plus a renovation agreement, plus being on a low density area on a property that is 30 years old or more, or in an ARU zone. So the 280K route is possible, of course, but the zoning restrictions and the ages of property should be looked into, because it needs to be a low density area on ARU zone, or the property will indeed need to be more than 30 years old. And I would say it's a fairly low investment to do, 280K. It's an interesting route for people that wish to invest in Portugal, and this is one of the limits that will be increased in the near future once the Golden Visa rules do change. But these are the tiers of the Golden Visa. At least on the property route, this is usually the most common route that is taken, although we have the investment funds, and we can touch that if you wish, Carl.
Yeah, well, there are some. Yeah, have some water, because we do work you hard here. We remember this from last time. Have a quick break. I mean, there are other subsets of investment, aren't there? As I recall, you know, investment in projects and companies and so on, and creating jobs in Portugal. Could you touch on those briefly?
Well, I would say that the second most common investment in Portugal would be the investment fund. So you have venture capital funds or property funds that are regulated by the EU norms and Portuguese Bank of Portugal. So they are secure in a sense that at least they have some strong regulations that they need to abide for. And apart from property purchases, the investment funds are indeed I would say the second useful or most used route to have a Golden Visa. The other options that you do have is, for instance, incorporating a company in Portugal and having 10 paid positions But this route, I would say, by the last numbers that I do recall, about 10 or 15 people have decided to do this route. So because it's really time consuming, you do need to put the money here in Portugal, at least 350K, and then create 10 paid positions with a work contract. So it's for someone that really wishes to reside full-time in Portugal, because it is quite difficult to run a company at a distance. And so if you are planning to live in Portugal, I would say that the D7 or any other option, even an entrepreneur visa, is the best option comparing to the Golden Visa. So a thing that pulls people into Portugal, that's having a company here and running the company here, is not so I do think that it's not so compatible with the Golden Visa, because there are other options for folks that want to reside here full time. And then you have some less used routes, that is investing in a project of cultural, on a cultural aspect. But I would say that, at least from my clients, my type of clientele, I never seen someone wishing to do that. People usually do stick with property purchases, or the half a million, or the renovation situations that we covered, or the investment fund. So I would say those are the most common and used ones, or used via routes to update the Golden Visa here.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in many ways, those last three scenarios, it would appear that if a person was doing that already, they might get the Golden Visa as an added benefit, rather than taking the Golden Visa as their primary purpose for coming to Portugal. But if you were creating a company here, incorporating, do the 10 jobs have to be with local people, or could that be an importation of a company to relocate into Portugal?
Well, it needs to be people that are or Portuguese people, or people residing here with the residency permit, or European citizens. So if these three people are hired, there's no problem in doing so. In some specific situations, you can do what is called the transfer of workers from a company that is operating abroad. But the problem with it is that for the Golden Visa, you do need to own the company. The shares of the company, the company will need to be a unipessoal, so a single shareholder company, and it will need to be in the name of the investor. And this does create a problem with transferring workers, because usually you have a provision in the law that you can transfer workers if they are in an umbrella fashion corporation. So you have the corporation in the US that owns the corporation in Portugal, and these two corporations can transfer workers among them and bring people to Portugal in this fashion. But if the investor owns the company, you don't have this umbrella situation, and thus I would say that the transfer of workers is not so facilitated. And so I would stick with hiring Portuguese people, or people that have residency permits here, or European citizens that wish to reside in Portugal.
Okay, so you could have a very exciting startup opportunity in the Portuguese interior. How amazing would that be? Okay, that's wonderful. Now let's go to Gina. Thank you for this. Does the 500,000 investment apply to husband and wife individually or jointly? This is a great question. How does this work? Does the individual do it and then they have reunification thereafter? Is that one route?
That's the route. So the property to be eligible for the Golden Visa needs to be bought in the name of just one of the spouses. So in the bank account, it is recommendable that you open the bank account with one main holder, so there is no questions or doubts or where the money is coming from. And this is because of the following: the money should be transferred from the account abroad to the Portuguese account, and then to the people selling the property. And you'll have a banking declaration that will be issued from the bank, stating that this person put this amount of money in Portugal, and on these dates the money was wired to the sellers. So it is, I would say, a loan investment, because it's not shared with the spouse. But depending on the marital property regime, and this is something a bit awkward for UK citizens and for US citizens because they're not too used to this situation. If you buy a property with a common property regime, so all the property that is acquired within the wedding is common property, the property will be of the two spouses and cannot be sold by the investor. So this works in the following way. The person buying the property will need to declare if they are single, married, divorced, and if they are married, they will need to declare who is the spouse. We will need to obtain the NIF of the spouse as well, even if it's separate property, even if they have a prenuptial agreement, we will need to obtain the NIF of the spouse as well. And if it's separate property, then they won't need the authorization of the spouse to sell the property down the line. But if it's common property after the marriage, and this is the majority of this is the most common property regime that we see, this means that the house does belong to the two spouses, and only with the authorization of the second spouse that's not the main investor, this property can be sold. This in fact will make that the property is a joint one, although in paper it can only, in the deed, you'll have the main investor that is purchasing the property, and it will mention who is the spouse in the NIF in the marital property regime. But it is a sole investment. And then the person that bought the property can do the family regrouping, and the two procedures can be requested at the same time. So once we submit the request for the initial investor, we can do the submission at the same time for the family members, and this can be the spouse or any sons that are below 18, or even if they are between 18 and 25, as long as they're studying in university, the family regrouping can be done as well. For people that want to regroup their parents or the in-laws, you can do it if they are above 65. So if they are above 65, it's a no questions asked. You can do the family regrouping. If they are below 65, you will need to prove financial dependency with your parents, or if they are stuck in a bed, for instance, they are physical dependents of you. So if it's above 65, no questions asked. Below 65, you'll need to prove either physical or financial dependency to have a family regrouping of the in-laws or of the parents. But I would say that this is it covers the situation on the property if it's bought jointly or if it's bought in a separate fashion.
That's amazing. The reunification is a pretty generous proposition, isn't it?
I would say so, yeah, especially for the kids between 18 and 25. I was surprised the first time that I saw the law when the law was published, because I was not expecting people or the political power to legislate in that way, because usually the mentality in Portugal is that once you are above 25, you are financially independent and you should have your own application, or you simply do not depend on your parents. But I do think that this is connected with the law that was approved a few years ago, I would say more than 10 years ago, that if someone between 18 and 25 is studying at the university and they are still in they're not financially independent, they can request that a portion of their expenses is paid by the parents. And as long as they have success in their studies, they can go to their parents and request alimony. So I do think this is a bit connected with that, and they passed on this mentality into the Golden Visa program. But this is just a guess. I would say an educated guess, but it is a guess.
Amazing, incredible. Yeah, and some great universities, incidentally. It's one of the oldest in the world in Coimbra, correct, of course, and Yeah, excellent reputations for the universities all over Portugal.
Yeah.
Okay, a quick aside. Thank you, Alex, for this. Is Dominica, forgive me, I think, is that the same as the Dominican Republic, but is Dominica considered as a tax haven by Portugal? You mentioned that briefly before. That and any others? Are there notable ones we should mention?
Yeah, there is, well, Isle of Man, for instance, considering the UK and the Channel Islands are considered tax havens. The Emiratis, so Dubai, Qatar, and so some places like that are considered tax havens. The BVI, British Virgin Islands, and all those Caribbean islands that are indeed tax havens, they are considered. I'm not sure about Dominican Republic. I'll need to check the list, but you have a list that is publicized almost every year that does have the complete list of the countries that are considered tax havens. And if the money is coming from over there, if the money is transferred from the tax haven directly to Portugal, this will ring the bells of compliance of the bank, and this will lead into an unsuccessful Golden Visa application.
Excellent. Okay. There was one other question I wanted to put to you. Maria is very happy with your very clear explanations there. Oh, yeah. And just to clarify for Marco Polo, what a great name for an explorer and a potential expat. Hi, once the application is approved, how does the investor come to Portugal? I mean, basically, you said it was like you corrected me. It's not a visa. It's a residency permit, isn't it?
Correct.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go, Marco Polo. I hope that clears it up. Any more questions, please put them in the chat. Something I wanted to ask you as well, Daniel. You mentioned Tamar. You know, we're talking about the possible moving of the money coming into Portugal by the Golden Visa into the interior. On a personal level, what other places would you recommend to people? I mean, you know them well. Tamar will be a very notable place to investigate, I think. Castelo de Vida, already mentioned, would be another. What are your other top tips, and what are you noticing? Where are people's attentions going?
To Alentejo coasts, because once again on that map, if you are kind enough to put it again,
yes, sure.
You can see that the Alentejo coast, a big portion out of it is still considered a low density area, although it's a coastal area. And I would say as well, whoops, you're flipping that around.
Yes, I don't know what I did there. How do I do that? I turn it. There's upside down, and there is the right way. Okay, perfect. There we go. Now you can see.
Well, so you can see that a big portion of the Alentejo coast is still considered a low density area, and we are seeing a great interest of people in doing so. And the Douro Valley as well. There's a lot of people interested in investing in the Douro Valley because it is still considered a low density area. Coimbra, for instance, as you can see, that white spots in the map is Coimbra, and it's considered an high density area, so it's out of the equation for the Golden Visa. It's sad, but it is what it is. And I would say that in Algarve, Sagres, because if you just go down the map, you'll see that it's still included in the low density area, as well as on the other side, nearby the border with Spain, Villarreal, we are seeing some interest in people wanting to buy properties over there, and it's the interest is still alive and kicking for those areas.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll conclude soon on the main matter here of the last call on the coastal areas and go to some Q&A with the people here on the live webinar. If you want to be treated as a priority case on these webinars, do become a premium member. If you're seeing this on YouTube at the moment, do consider becoming a premium member of expatsportugal.com. Martin asking, my understanding is the Golden Visa is really only a visa for free access to Portugal and the EU, and the D7 is a true residence. Is that a fair and true reflection of the situation? Asked Martin.
I would say that the two are residency permits. So the Golden Visa is a residency permit and the D7 is a residency permit. The D7, it is mandatory for the person to live in Portugal and to stay here full time. Of course, you can go abroad, you can have your holidays, you can spend almost more than 3 months outside of Portugal. This is not problematic at all. And even more time, we've had cases of people that had D7s and other residency permits that if a family member got ill abroad and they went and support the family member, and they were almost a year out of Portugal, but when they returned, this was explained to SEF, to the Border Patrol Police. It was documented, and they did renew the residency permit. But it is you'll need to have a justification of not being in Portugal. The Golden Visa, you don't need to justify anything. You just need to stay 7 days per year in Portugal, and this can even be all enjoyed at the same time. So the Golden Visa is issued for 2 years. Let's have the following scenario. You have the Golden Visa issued today, and it will still be valid until the 16th of September of 2022. And of 2023, I'm sorry. And this would mean that you could come on the end of August and stay here 14 days. And on the 15th of September of 2023, you could renew the card and fulfill the 7-day criteria all at the same time. So you can be almost 2 years out of the country, and you just simply come to Portugal, enjoy 14 days at a time, and you will be eligible to renew the card. And this will not happen in D7 or any other type of residency permits, because it's simply not allowed. And this is the beauty and the advantage of the Golden Visa, because I do think that people do look into the Golden Visa in 2 ways. Or for countries that are they have social turmoil, or that the political power can change quite quickly, they look into it as an escape plan. So they still remain in their countries that were the place that they can do good money and where they have their companies, but they want a way to get out fast for them and the family if things go south quickly. So, and we have seen this unfortunately with Afghanistan, in the situation of people just in dire desperation of trying to embark in a plane, and to avoid things like that, people that have the financial means but live in countries that the situation may flip quickly, they want to avoid that and be on a plane without having the risk of requesting visas and going through consulates and waiting 4, 6, 7 months to obtain a visa. And the other typology of clientele would be people that want to invest in Portugal because the property market is still attractive comparing to other European countries, but want to obtain the Portuguese nationality. So their plan is to have a Portuguese passport and to pass the Portuguese nationality to their kids and grandkids and whatnot. So I would say it's the two typology of clientele that's the Golden Visa. It is attractive for people that really wish to reside here full time. The D7 or any other type of residency permit is more than indicated because it's way cheaper and the requirements are not so stringent. So for instance, people that purchase the property here in Portugal cannot sell the property if they want to renew the card. So it's not a question of just buying property. You obtain the card and then you flip it, have the money, and go and hope that the card is renewed. This is not the case. You can sell the property, but you'll need to reinvest the money so the Golden Visa is renewed. And I saw one of the questions over there, if you can swap between the D7 and the Golden Visa, or the opposite. This cannot happen. So it's not transferable. If you start with the D7, but then you wish to obtain a Golden Visa, at the time that we go and do the biometric data details, the D7 needs to be cancelled, and so we can obtain the Golden Visa. And the opposite is true as well. If someone wishes to obtain the D7 but already has the residency permit of a Golden Visa, they should cancel it, because you cannot have the two at the same time. So it's not possible to transform the D7 into a Golden Visa, or the opposite. You need to cancel one into having the other one.
Okay, so 2 separate applications then for that.
Correct.
We will come to some Q&A just a moment, hands up Q&A, but a final question, just referring back, you mentioned some costs of 30K on top of the €500,000. What do you think are the additional costs people are looking at to go through this process over and above the 500,000, for example?
Well, the property transfer taxes, as I mentioned, is probably the big lump sum that they should account for when they are acquiring property here in Portugal. And the other one would be CEF's fees. So for each residency permit that is issued, you're looking into 5,333 euros, so 5.3K. And then if we are addressing a family of 4, just for the issuance of the cards, it will be around 21K. And these cards, as I said, are valid for 2 years. So once we get into the renewal phase, the fees are 2,606 euros, give or take. So for the renewals, again, for a family of 4, we are addressing an expense of around 11K, give or take. So the renewals are not as expensive. They are half the price of the granting of the card, but still, it's something that the investor should address. The other one would be notary fees for the property purchase. This is about 1K, and then the investor will have our fees and the other services that he does request. There is a big interest in US citizens at the current moment for the Golden Visa, and it is interesting, but because they are requesting a service that culturally is not common in Portugal, and this is the inspection of the property. So there is a lot of companies doing the inspection of the company nowadays. They are usually civil engineers or architects that will go into the property, evaluate the house, see all potential problems, do a report on it. And this is something that is not culturally common in Portugal, but that we are seeing clients requesting. And this is something that some clients do like to have. If the renovation, the 350K and the 280K routes are the ones followed, it will be the renovation costs. Of course, delays, because renovations always suffer delays. This happens all over the world. And usually my advice is that clients that will do this at the distance, they should hire a third-party professional, like an engineer or an architect, to do the, I wouldn't say surveillance, but to do inspections on the renovations and see what is the type of materials being used, how the construction is being developed. Because if they are on the other side of the world, in South Africa or in the US or even in Australia, they will need to have some control on the development on the construction site here. So having a third party is something that I usually advise the clients, and something that I would say the majority of the clients that tends to opt on the renovations do because it is convenient. It is a way to pressure the people doing the renovation. So it's a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Bit of project management. So roughly speaking, we're looking at 10 to 20%, aren't we, on top of cost? Just a very rough figure.
I would say, yeah. I would say so, yeah. And other costs. The ones for the permanent residency card, if the investor desires to request the card that is valid for 5 years. So once the investor has a 5-year residency card or 5 years of consecutive residency, he can request a permanent residency card. And those ones are steep. They are about 7,000 euros for each card. So it is a steep fee that the Border Patrol police does make the investors pay. But apart from that, it's straightforward. And this is as the payments are not all done in the beginning. This is as the renewals come up. One other important detail. Please, all Golden Visa holders, do not lose your residency cards, because the Portuguese government has done has put in the law some beautiful beautiful article that states the following: if you lose your residency card, it will be considered a renewal, and thus you'll need to pay 2,666 euros. So it is a big, hefty sum of money to pay if you just lose your wallet in the tube in the subway. So do not lose your card, keep it well stored, because otherwise you'll have to pay a lump sum of money that is not easy to just see fly away.
That's a very precious thing, and obviously you want to keep it safe because the way you described it earlier on, as a gift to your grandchildren as well. In so many ways, it's a very precious item. Is your card and that status? That's great. Okay, let's leave it there. Sorry, did I interrupt you? Did you want to add something else there?
No. That was it. That was it.
All right. I've got to tell you this. Okay, I just have to say, Daniel is one of the smartest and clearest people I've ever heard discuss and explain visa matters. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lonnie, for that. That's why we have him here. Great job again tonight, Daniel. Thank you so much. We'll go to hands up Q&A among the people who are here on the webinar and close the public part of the webinar. That's why, folks, it's a really good idea to become a premium member of expatsportugal.com. So go look it up on our website and do join us for a very modest fee of €47. Daniel, thanks again. Thanks everybody for their questions. We will go to a more intimate Q&A now. Thank you very much.